Good evening, everybody, and you are chilling with Kenny C right here on tmvcafe.com, bringing you entertainment to your ears. Joining me at this time is a recording artist, singer, songwriter extraordinaire here in Kentucky. A little over a few weeks back, he released his latest studio album called Milkweed, and it is available on all streaming platforms, including his Bandcamp uh, page as well. By the way, in Bandcamp, artists get paid a little bit more than the streaming platforms. Just pouring it out there. You got your options, but the Bandcamp is a huge plus. I'm happy. I'm excited to have back on the show Dr. Kevin Holm-Hudson. How's it going, sir?
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm still trying to recover from a busy weekend, but I'm okay. It's great to have you back and to catch up with you on some things. Let's start off with Milkweed. It's your latest project. Came out last month in November, obviously. Talk about putting together Milkweed. What was the like just the studio sessions like putting together this latest project?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Milkweed's my third album. I have two other albums recorded with my band, Dr. Kevin Holm-Hudson and the Adjuncts. But for this particular album, it took more of a solo turn, and my kind of working subtitle for the album was that it was 13 songs about time, nature, the seasons, God, and mortality. So it's pretty heavy, and it gets into some kind of mystical areas of my songwriting that was hinted at on previous albums, but I didn't really include too many tracks that explored it fully. But with Milkweed, it seemed like I was amassing this quantity of songs that kind of had this very sort of mystical indie folk sort of bent, and I thought, okay, well, we're going to go in that direction. And then there were several experiences in my life that kind of confirmed that that was the right direction to take.
So you mentioned this is a solo. This is more of a solo project for you compared to your previous projects. So with that being said, what was it like? Was it like working on a solo project compared to working on a project with your band?
That's a good question. Since it was a solo project, it opened me up to work with additional musicians. And so, actually, there are a few songs on the new CD which do use the adjuncts in a couple of different configurations because last year we had to change our bass player. We had to replace our bass player, mainly just because he lived too far away to make rehearsals really a viable thing. So, there are a couple of songs recorded with the newer version of the adjuncts. There's one song recorded with the older version of the adjuncts. And then on several other songs, I brought in guest musicians where I wanted things like an oboe or a French horn or a cello. And I would call on these musicians that I knew from teaching them at UK. And sometimes they would still be at UK, and I'd just be like, hey, I'm working on this album. Do you want to come in and play some, oboe or what have you? And so I would have to write out these parts because typically oboe players and cello players don't really improvise, the way jazz musicians do. You put a piece of sheet music in front of them, they're very comfortable with that. So I had worked out these arrangements and they played my arrangements and it came out so fantastically well. Um, because just the instrumental colors are so much richer. And so the process is a little more laborious because there's more overdubbing, of individual instruments and things like that. But in the end, it gives you more opportunity to shape what you want to hear.
Yeah, so in this project, you got a chance to work with some current members and former members of the band, and you also work with fellow local musicians on this project. In the end, this is all you. This is your project, obviously, and it turned out a really good project. So one thing I admire about your music in particular, whether it's solo or whether it's with your band, is that it's definitely a good feel. So feel good music that you present. It's just nice indie folk vibes, and it's something to put in the car and listen to while you're cruising, and and have some solo time or spend time with the loved ones, just enjoying it. So,
When you're
um,
driving through the gorge, when you're
yeah.
driving through the Red River Gorge, that would be the place to experience this album.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. There's a suggestion. So you buy the album, you put it in your MP3 player or whatever these updated cars have these days, and and make your trip there to Red River and go listen to it from start to finish. So Milkweed, latest project, Kevin Holm-Hudson, is out on all the platforms. It's also out on Bandcamp as well. So I got a Bandcamp question for you. So
Yeah,
obviously, ever since the pandemic, they have been having this thing called Bandcamp Fridays. First Friday of every month. They started it back in 2020, and it looks like it's still an ongoing thing to this day. And well, basically, what that is, if you buy music, if you buy any form of music or merchandise for that matter, on the first Friday of every month, 100% of the purchases goes directly towards the artist or band or record label. You have had all your projects out through Bandcamp. Um, what's your thoughts on a platform like Bandcamp being that willing to do something like this, considering other major platforms don't do such a thing?
right. I think that's great. And, we're hearing more and more from musicians about how if you are a music lover and you want to support the artist, the the best way, really the only way that you can effectively support that artist is by buying their merch, getting their t-shirt that they're selling at a show or something like that, or buying like the physical CD product or something like that through Bandcamp or something like that. Bandcamp Friday is a great thing because, as you pointed out, they waive the fees that they take off on each purchase. So once you take out, the sales tax or whatever, the rest of it goes directly to the artist. It's the first Friday of each month. And another thing that Bandcamp is doing now, which was a lot of fun, around the time that a week before the album was actually going to be unveiled with physical media, we put it up on Bandcamp and had a listening party. So you can schedule a listening party not only for a new product, but even if you want to, play through something that's an earlier album in your catalog or something like that. You can set up a time and a date, and Bandcamp will notify your followers that you're going to have this listening party, and then on that day, once it hits the time, it just automatically goes into play on whatever the album is that you're having your listening party. So like once it started playing, you can't stop it, but you can type in and do chat, like interactive chat while you're listening to the album. So I had a number of my followers doing the listening party on Bandcamp, and everybody's hearing it for the first time. They're all like, "Oh my God, this is fantastic!" And I could share little, sort of factoids about some of the songs and things like that. And it was just a great way. It's a great way for you to connect with your favorite artists on Bandcamp if they participate in that. And for my fellow musician friends who are maybe on Bandcamp, it's a great way to connect with your listeners.
That's awesome. In all the years that I've been supported of Bandcamp, I definitely did not know they do that. That's a pretty cool idea,
It's a new
considering,
thing. Yeah.
considering the times that we are in, technology is evolving. Artists are definitely looking for a variety of ways, of creative ways of getting the music out there. and having like a virtual listening party. It's because people got jobs and things like that and can't get out the house or whatever. So hey, like why not have a nice listening party and just that's cool. So shout out to Bandcamp for that. That's a cool thing. If I was a music artist, I definitely would definitely get into something like that. That's pretty cool for
Yeah,
Bandcamp to do.
it was a really fun way to spend the afternoon. You know, I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
we did it like the day before Thanksgiving. You know, because I wanted to kind of time the release around Thanksgiving, just because I've got so much to be thankful for. You know, as a musician and whatnot.
So
You know,
now that the album has been out for a few weeks now, what's been the reaction that you've been getting from this project from fans, from listeners to fellow musicians? What's been the reaction you've been getting from this project?
well, from people that have actually tracked it down and listened to it, it's been extremely positive. So some of my, my followers, my fans, fellow musicians that are into what I'm doing, that's all been extremely positive. And the general consensus, and I would have to agree, is that it's the best album that I've done. You know, of the three, this is my third album. It's better than the first two. There's just kind of been a steady trajectory going up, which I'm really happy about. But of course, when you're an independent artist, you also have to get it out where people that don't know you get to hear it. And so that's what I'm trying to do now is tracking down indie folk music blogs on the web and finding out which ones will take music to listen to and review. Because there's some where they'll let you like share your track or whatever and put it on their Spotify list or what have you. But this isn't an album. This is not an album that has like a hit single, right? It's like if you listen to an album like the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds, it's like this organic unity, and there's not like a song that's like the radio friendly cut. So I wouldn't know which song to necessarily promote in that way, but I know if I can hook somebody into listening to it, even the first few songs or whatever, if they like it enough to write a review and let people know about it, that's really what I'm aiming for at this point.
So yeah, Milkweed, name of the latest album from Dr. Kevin Holm-Hudson, is available on the streaming platforms and on Bandcamp. So you can buy it, you can stream it, you can support it, and as the doctor has said, buy the music. I mean, listening to it is cool. Get a feel to it is cool, but buying the project would definitely be totally appreciated. So go check out Milkweed from Dr. Kevin Holm-Hudson. It is available on all the platforms and on Bandcamp. I got a chance to listen to the project, and you know, I could always count on Dr. Hudson to, for like a nice body of work project. And
Thank you.
this is such an incredible project. I definitely fell in love with the second album that you did with your band, and I'm like, man, I hope he released more music, man, because he got something going here musically. And then I literally found out after Thanksgiving, oh, wait a minute, Doctor got a new project out.
Yeah.
Let me listen to it. So
If I can mention just a couple of other things about the
yeah,
project real
go
quickly,
ahead.
because some people might wonder why the album's called Milkweed, and so the the vision behind that title is that the milkweed is a plant that has these pods, and at the time that it blossoms, it just like releases these seeds out of the pods. And people love milkweeds because it's also like the main source of nourishment for monarch butterflies, right? The monarch butterflies feed on the milkweed. Well, I love the metaphor of the milkweed being something that just would like pop and send its seeds everywhere. Because as a songwriter, that's what I'm trying to do. Is just like send the music out there, and maybe it will land on some fertile ears where people will just kind of take it and embrace it and use it to improve their lives or what have you. um, I'm not at an age where I'm like trying to be like the next Nashville sensation or Americana hero or whatever like that. That's not me. But I do want to just like put out music and let people enjoy it. And the other thing I wanted to mention about the album is that if you look at the Bandcamp page, you'll see the cover art. The cover art was done by my wife, Karen, who's a really terrific painter. And she's probably would be very embarrassed that I'm mentioning this right now because she's very humble about her own art. But her art really is terrific. And the painting that she came up with of the milkweed plants came about when I passed on to her the demos of what I was working on and just said, like, here's the music I'm working on. What kind of cover does this suggest? And that's the way a lot of cover artists in the 70s did, like all those terrific album covers from the 70s. They would get like an advanced recording of whatever artist they were doing the cover for, and a lot of times that music would inform what the cover concept would be. So we use kind of the same process, and so that's kind of her impressions on what the music sounded like to her, and it's really just a fantastic cover.
Shout out to Miss Hudson with the art, with the album cover. That's and definitely appreciate you explaining the meaning behind milkweed. You know, it's definitely got Kevin Holm-Hudson written all over it. So it's got that feel, it's got that unique perspective. Once you listen to it, I'm like, oh no, I get it, you know. So man, I'm excited to be joined with Dr. Kevin Holm-Hudson on the show as we discuss milkweed. So you got a chance to perform these songs in person in front of a crowd. Um, so how you feeling, man? Like obviously, like once the hard work is done, recording these songs, mix, mastering everything. Now you and I'm pretty sure you performed some of these songs like prior to recording them per
Oh
se.
yeah,
And
oh yeah.
now the album's out, people listening to it, they seen you at the shows. Like, what's it like, man? Like all the hard work is put in, and now you really get to perform these songs, you know, and for people to listen to and to sing word for word, man. What's it like performing these songs in person and for the Milkweed album?
Well, as you mentioned, some of the songs on the album go back like 5 years, and I worked on the album with my friend Jim Gleason, who's just also just an amazing musician and producer. Jim and I worked together on the album for about 8 months before finally releasing it, and the album release party with the in-person playing of the album went really well. Had a lot of really terrific response. We packed the Twisted Cork where we were doing it, and now my next project, as I'm kind of looking ahead, and I've got a lot of time to work on this, but the next project I think is going to be a Christmas album or a
Ooh,
holiday album because I've got like 6 original songs, and it's kind of funny when you look at like the different kind of holiday songs that are out there. I've got the nostalgic Christmas song. I've got like the reflective Christmas song. I've got the really dark, depressing Christmas song. I've got the nostalgic Christmas song. I've got a Hanukkah song, you know. And so, I mean, I've got enough of these different songs together. It's like, yeah, I could probably put together at least an EP, and who knows what the next year holds. I may have a full-length album of original material in time for the holidays. That was something I was thinking about earlier this year, but then when the Milkweed project started, it was clear there just wouldn't be time to do it. But I haven't forgotten about it, and that might be my next project. I also want to get to doing more with the adjuncts, and that's another part. It's like reaching out to festivals, and that's a hard scene to kind of crack into because a lot of the festivals in the state, they know what they want, they know who they want, and if you're a newer or an artist that's kind of working on the margins of things, where they don't necessarily know like what you're trying to get at with your music, it's safer to book the artist that does the safer music and has a big following. So we haven't had as much luck cracking into festivals just yet, but I'm hoping that'll change this year because we've got a good sound for people to hear for sure.
yeah, for local artists in general, it's very challenging trying to get to these festivals, small or big for that matter. You probably have a better luck with more local driven festivals than a Whalebird festival, for example. And I like Whalebird. I've been to all three of them, and they do have a plethora of local talent. But it does get challenging. There's a lot of good talent that's really putting in the work, investing so much of their time.
Oh
And
yeah,
so it does get frustrating. Like as far as okay, you've been in these small venues, you're getting a good feel, you're getting that confidence, and the reality is that some of these festivals, these corporate festivals for that matter, they already know who
right.
they want and they're gonna stick with the obvious choice, with the safe choice. Uh
But
so
the good thing too is that there's so much talent. There is so much talent in this area. Central Kentucky is just blessed with an incredible array of talent. Fantastic musicians, tons of songwriters. So, maybe a bad time to kind of carve one's own niche in that scene, but at the same time, it's a really good time just to hear all these incredible artists that are out there doing it.
yes, there's definitely a lot of talent in Central Kentucky, and there's also venues like the Twisted Cork um, that always constantly bringing in local talent
Yeah,
for their entertainment. Shout out to everybody, man. Shout out to Sue. Shout out to
yeah.
everybody. Of
Prentice and
course,
Whitney and Ray.
yeah,
Yeah,
Whitney Way especially. So they relocated less than a year ago, earlier this year. Um, and I've been to the new location once. Um, the atmosphere is still the same, which is pretty good.
yeah,
And everything else, man, like it hasn't changed that much. It's just I'm glad that the new location is working well for them as a business, as a local business. So and they still giving you that same feel that the previous court gave y'all. So
yeah.
I'm very, very pleased with everything that's turning out. So um
And
again,
a big shout out to the Cork because they have always been incredibly supportive of my music. So and other artists that maybe aren't doing strict country or what have you. They're taking some chances stylistically or whatever. And the Cork for them is just like it's live music, it's local. We want to support it. So I've always felt very welcome there. Always felt that my music has been wanted there, and so I'm very grateful for them. Like I said, I put this album out over Thanksgiving, so I've got a lot to be thankful for.
so and they and with the Twisted Cork, they evolving now. It's doing they got comedy shows doing happening there now.
Yeah,
So they got local comedy and local music. They're expanding, they're evolving. Good
they have a
service is always,
restaurant. Yeah,
yeah. So they definitely expanded. If you haven't been to the newly Twisted Cork, go check it out. They got all the drinks. Of course, I don't drink at all, but they got plenty of drinks for the elderly. And they got the good service. You're gonna be entertained. And Sue, one thing about Mama Sue is that she's definitely a mama at heart. So once she sees you for the first time, you better be ready for a hug and a kiss on the cheek. Um, that's all I'm gonna say. And Patrice, oh, he's quite the trip. He's always engaged in the conversation, man. So shout out to Whitney and Ray. Always talented, always good peoples, and go check out the Trista Court. And they do great stuff there. As always. Dr. Kevin Holm-Hudson, Milkweed is the project. It is out on all the streaming platforms and Bandcamp. Go check it out and support local music, support independent music. Very, very important to do that. Kevin, Dr. Kevin, for that matter, thank you so much for being back on the show. And now he just gave us a hint that he's definitely working on some holiday music for next year of sorts.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Before we go,
Yeah,
if I can mention just a few things I have coming up, since you
yes,
brought up
sir.
the Christmas music. So you brought up the Christmas music. This coming Sunday, the 10th, I'm going to be at the Elkhorn Tavern, which is over in the Manchester Distillery District in Lexington,
Mhm.
playing from 5 to 7. And that's going to be a mix of covers and originals, but there will definitely be some holiday music in there, including a few of the holiday originals. That's this coming Sunday. And then on Thursday next week, the 14th, I'll be playing in the Heartstrings Songwriter Showcase that Trish Torline puts together once a month. And it's going to be at the Ross Opera House in downtown Cynthiana. It's a really cool historic opera house venue. Um, and I'm going to be playing with several other songwriters, and that's going to be a holiday themed show. I think everybody's going to be sharing holiday originals for that. And then finally, next Saturday, the 16th, I'm going to be playing in a tribute to the musicians of Laurel County. I'm sorry, Laurel Canyon, not Laurel County. That's like Kentucky. Laurel Canyon. But people like uh, Joni Mitchell, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, James Taylor. Those all those '70s singers songwriters. I'm going to be involved with that with about 4 or 5 other musicians, and that's at Kenwick Table on the 16th from 6 to 9 p.m. So 3 shows on the 10th, the 14th, and the 16th, and that wraps me up for the year.
All right, so Dr. Hudson's got a few shows left for 2023. So check out those shows that he mentioned. Check out the social media platforms as well. He's on Facebook under Kevin Holm-Hudson Music. And stay tuned for what he has in store in the upcoming new year. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Hudson. Congrats on this project. And great having you on here as always. Happy holidays to you and your family, man.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for having me, and happy holidays to you and yours as well.
Much love, man. You have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
All right.
Good
Bye.
night.
All right.